Good afternoon, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video, and today we're going to revisit the Cypress pile because there's been a ton of talk about it ever since I released that video that, like, the thumbnail was like, stop, do not build. Was that a little clickbaity? Yes, it probably was a little clickbaity. However, I rewatched the video about 4 times this morning, and a quote from the video that I would like to pull out from the end was, I said that this was just a thought and I would love to have some good discussion about this item. I invited people to defend it if they thought it was good, because those were my initial thoughts on it. I had been away from the game for a couple days. I looked at it and I was like, oh man, I don't think this is worth farming. And so I invited the conversation in, and I have to say, like, the conversation has been incredibly good. Now, that's not to my credit, that's to the credit of this community. It would have been very easy for lots of people to say, oh my gosh, Orj, you're an idiot, you're a, insert a bad word here, and just tee off on me. Instead, we had a really constructive Reddit post about it. Locke, another content creator, put out a very good video about why he suggests building at least one, if not 2 of them. And so I was like, okay, let's revisit this. I'm going to run some tests of my own, put some numbers on the screen here. We'll crunch the math, and then I'm going to revisit what I said about the Cypress pile and if I still stand behind what I said. So let's cut to some fighting and to some math. It's time to do math, y'all. Okay, now here's the team that I'm going to use to test this. I pulled this straight from like what a Guild Wars defense team might be, because I wanted to run this test on like an actual team comp, and not only an actual team comp, I'm giving Cypress pile like the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways here. I'm using Rain, I'm using +5 smart coats, and I'm using Fenrir. Now, yes, I could pump Rain's magic resist up more, but let's be real, if you're attacking in Guild Wars and you're hitting like full magic resist teams, Cypress pile ain't gonna do it for you. Like, some magic pin, 20 magic pin, is not going to help you beat the exact counter to your team. There are other ways around that, like running Spellblade on Helena, mixing your damage types, all of that. That's more valuable than one item will be at beating your counter. This, however, is not a perfect counter to Cypress pile, but instead something you might just run into, especially if you're attacking in Guild Wars at a point when your options are limited. Maybe some of your other guildmates have already killed some people. You might run into a Rain and you might have to fight him. So I set this Rain up to be pretty magic resistant. He's rocking 46 spirit, which Cypress pile won't help against, and he's running 68% magic resist. Very significant, right? 68% is a big deal. Yuna, the other target in this, is also running 25 spirit herself, plus another 55% magic resist. So I'm giving Cypress pile a real chance to shine here, and I'm going to see if it's worth running. Now, the first experiment we're going to run is I'm going to have Helena equip nothing. We're going to see what just her damage would be with no gear. Just no gear. I am having her run Bahamut because I do think you're probably going to be running her with an Esper that boosts magic attack. So I picked Bahamut here. It's one I have Resonance built up with, and Bahamut has the magic attack tree unlocked. And then a lot of times Helena's going to be running her Vision card, so I'm going to run that. And I think this is a pretty, like, decent representation of what you could typically see. Now let's jump into some fights. All right, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put Raldor in here just as an example of a 50 faith unit with, like, I tried to get somebody with a 0 magic resist. He has 5 because of Fenrir, but this is a very low magic resist target because I also want to see what the effect of these items would be to somebody who's not stacking MR or doesn't really have any MR. And I could equip him with some, like, HP up gear or something like that, but I'm going to leave him naked just to see, just as another example of things that are happening. Okay, now here's the squad, and for the sake of not factoring in something like elemental resist, I'm going to use Devastation. Let's look at what Devastation does. Destroys any barrier that reduces magic damage on target, then deals large non-element damage based on caster's magic stat. Okay, so Devastation. Targeting Rain only, it would do 1,519 damage. Yuna, 2,892 damage, and Raldor 4,362 damage. This is with no gear on. Those are our just like baseline numbers of what this spell would do, which is to Esper vision card equipped. We haven't factored in weapons at all yet. So now let's factor in some weapons and see how those numbers change. For our second test, we're going to equip just the Platinum Rod to Helena. So again, no armor, no TMR, just Plat Rod, and we're going to see what the Plat Rod by itself does to modify our damage from the first fight. I like to use this map, by the way, the very first map on the list, because those wolves are so dang slow that they never get a turn, so it gives me a chance to position my units for some like better targeting. Okay, so here we are on the map. We're going to use Devastation again, same skill, this time with the Plat Rod equipped. And for Rain, you're going from 1519 up to 1821, okay? Yuna's damage goes from 2892 to 3466. For Raldor, the like almost zero magic resist guy, 4,362 goes up to 5,231. So definitely by far the biggest jump from the Platinum Rod was on the target with almost no magic resist. It just makes the most sense, right? You're getting magic from the Platinum Rod, and it's very comparable to the magic you're getting from the Cypress pile. It's like 4 different or something like that. But huge jump in damage from the magic attack plus 15. Okay, so that's the Plat Rod. Let's switch next to the Cypress pile. All right, just like before, we are going to take off the Plat Rod, and I will equip the Cypress pile that I just built 30 minutes ago. I'll get into the cost, like what it cost me to build the thing afterwards, but here it is. It's a +5 max magic stat. I believe I'm a little bit like I'm too short on attack or something, but that doesn't matter for this. 166 magic, so it's bringing some magic damage. The difference between the two, you can see with Cypress pile, my magic stat goes from 1290 to 1294, so an increase of 4 like I was thinking. A little more HP, a little less attack, but who cares about that? There we go. It's also slightly more accurate. 2, I believe. So let's jump into this fight and see what the Cypress pile damage is. Alright, going to be using the same skill we were before, Devastation, and let's look at those numbers. So for Rain with the Cypress pile, Devastation deals 2,215 damage. That is an increase of 394 from the Platinum Rod. Significant. Yuna takes 3,932 damage from the Cypress pile build, which is an increase of 466. That is a surprise because Yuna has less magic resist than does Rain, but she is also light element. So what that tells me here is that the elemental advantage, now like here, correct me if I'm wrong here, like I could be off, but the calculation seems to favor like the elemental advantage gets a bigger boost from magic resist pin than it does from magic attack up. This is not something I knew before. This is a piece of new information that I just learned like 10 seconds ago when I was writing down these numbers. So anyway, that's an increase of 466 damage. It does not increase it enough to one-shot her, but 466 damage on a target rocking how much magic resist? 55? Is a big deal. I can see that being worth having in that case. Now for Raldor, you're at 5,012 damage, which is 219 less than the Platinum Rod did. So that's what we thought, right? For a target that is zero-ish magic resist, the Platinum Rod is better. But once you start stacking that magic resist, well, Rain took 394 damage more, Yuna took 466 damage more. So in that 400-ish category, which is nothing to scoff at. Okay, let's go to another test now. I'm going to run the build that I suggested and see how it plays out, which is Shell's TMR plus Soul of the Masa. All right, we're back in the screen here. Now, the build that I thought would be the best was Soul of the Masa +5, which gives magic resist penetration 10. Okay, so you throw that on. Plus, then I also liked Shell's TMR. In my mind, before I had everything built, before I had Black Rose Helena leveled up, this was her ideal build to me. And then you mix in an armor. It could be the Galmea coat. It could be a resistance, like a defense or spirit coat, whatever you want. This was, I thought, her most damaging build, though. Now, I'm not getting a bonus. Like, the magic on this build is going to be lower, right? Soul of the Masa, even if mine was maxed out, would only give 120. And Shell's TMR does not give a bunch of magic. It only gives 108. So I'm only bringing 108 plus the diminishing returns from Soul of the Masa. But let's throw this build into it and see how it plays out. All right, here we go. Same setup. Click in Devastation because that's the skill we're using. And let's go down the line. Okay, Rain with the Shell TMR Soul of the Masa takes 2,279 damage, which is 64 more than Cypress Pile did. Yuna, who continues to be the wild card of this whole thing, takes 3895 damage, which is 37 less than the Cypress Pile did. So, Cypress Pile against Yuna, in this group better, but very, very close, right? Only a 37 difference. And then Raldor takes 5,124 damage from the Shell TMR Thamasa combo, which is 112 more than Cypress Pile did. So, like, what does this mean? Well, clearly, the best two weapon combinations here were the Cypress Pile or Shell's TMR plus Soul of Thamasa. Now, let's talk about what that means a little bit. All right, we're back on this screen, and I wanted to see what the fall off would be if you removed Fenrir from the equation, because Fenrir is just straight up 20 magic resist to the group. So let's take Fenrir off, and let's say you run into a Rain or, you know, somebody who's running like a King Leonis Vision cards, you know, HP, defense, you know, no magic resist on here. Ooh, actually, does this give area attack resist? Let's not use that one then. Let's use just something else kind of random. Let's go with like, well, we're not using any single target attacks. So let's go Odin. So, okay, we're going to use AoE attacks. Odin's irrelevant for that. So let's switch out of Fenrir and just into something different that is not going to help Cypress Pile's damage, but might help the other one. So let's check out what this does. Okay, so here is no Fenrir with Cypress Pile equipped. We're going to compare Cypress Pile to, we'll compare it to Platinum Rod, the like cheaper option here, without Fenrir. So without Fenrir, Devastation doing 2667 to Rain, 4638 to Yuna, and 5943 to Raldor. So there's what Cypress Pile does when you remove Fenrir from this equation. Still a fairly magic resistant team, but taking that 20 magic resist off, there's your numbers. Now let's see what Plat Rod would do in this exact same situation. Okay, here's Devastation with the Platinum Rod, 2456 on Rain, which is 211 less than the Cypress Pile, so Cypress Pile still better. For Yuna, 4,458, which is 180 less than the Cypress Pile, so still, Cypress Pile still better, but really diminishing returns at this point. And then for Raldor, 6,266, which is 323 damage more than the Cypress Pile. So you can see, like it makes sense. As magic resist lowers, in this case Raldor's at -15, the Plat Rod starts outperforming. Now let's see the Shells plus Soul of the Masa combo. Okay, now for our last look at these numbers. Devastation, this time Shells plus TMR. On Rain, 2894, which is 227 better than the Cypress Pile. On Yuna, 4789, which is 151 better than the Cypress Pile. So, as Yuna's magic resist went down, the effects of the Cypress Pile were even more diminished on her. That element resist, the fact that it's a dark element unit attacking the light element unit is really affecting the numbers in an interesting way here. But with only, how much magic resist does she have right here? 35% magic resist. The Spirit Pin from Shell's TMR mixed with the 10 magic pin from Soul of the Masa is actually better, but not by a lot, right? 151, pretty comparable. Although it's pretty tilting when Yuna lives with 10 HP because she just Aeon bonds. Anyway, Raldor, 6140, which is 197 better than the Cypress Pile, but interestingly, it is worse by 100 and 26 than the platinum rod. So as units get near that like 0 MR number, platinum rod seems to outperform even the Shells TMR plus Soul of the Masa combination, which is pretty interesting. And there you go. So let's go look at the home screen, and let's talk about kind of what these numbers mean, and I'm gonna go over my points and see if I still stick with them. Okay, so now there you saw like the data, right? You saw like how just a plat rod compared with a Cypress pile compared with like the Shells TMR Soul of the Masa combo, how that played out in damage. And it's important to look when you're comparing these at not just the damage it does to the magic tank, because like with a unit like Black Rose Helena or with a lot of mages, they're doing big AoE damage a lot of times. So it's often more important that the AoE damage that's hitting the tank also one-shots the less magic resistant carry in the group. And when I'm valuing like my mages, like I'm not trying to build a mage that can kill Rain in one shot. I'm just never going to count on that. In fact, in Guild Wars right now, I run my Black Rose Helena as Spellblade subjob for her magic resist buff, because more magic resist is good in the current meta right now, but also for access to her like Darkra blade, however you say it, her slashing attack that scales off of her magic. That's a way to get completely around magic resist without worrying about like how much they're stacking, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's resisted instead by Spirit, which is another reason that I personally value Shells TMR higher than I value the Cypress pile in PvP in the game right now. Now, look, you saw the numbers. Like, is Cypress pile a garbage item? Absolutely not. And let me just say straight off, if you're a newer player and you haven't had access to farm like platinum rods or Yuna's rod, or you haven't leveled up Shells TMR, you don't have the Soul of the Masa because that was from several raids ago, you guys build Cypress pile. It's going to be your best thing, right? You still have 5 days to build it from the release of this video. And like, I hope that the thumbnail from my last video didn't just like, people didn't just look at that thumbnail and be like, oh good, this item's trash. Because if you'd have watched the video, I don't think this item is trash. I didn't think it was trash then. I didn't think it was worth building. And maybe for me, I was looking at it too much from like my account's point of view. When I go to Guild Wars today, which actually Guild Wars locked in 30 minutes ago, so I'll run whatever I have equipped, but I'm going to use the Shells TMR plus Soul of the Masa combo. That has a couple consequences. One, I can't run Helena's TMR on her, which makes her a little tankier, but I'd rather one-shot people. I'm not going to target teams that are running a lot of magic resist. That's the beauty of Guild Wars offense. Now, on Guild Wars defense, I do think Cypress pile's value goes up a little bit. It is very comparable, even when it lost in damage. The only time, I'm looking at my notes, that it was significantly outdone was when you were fighting targets with very little or no magic resist. In those cases, Cypress pile lagged way behind. In every other situation, it was really comparable. Even when it lost, it didn't lose by much, and in a lot of situations, it overperformed. So on Guild Wars defense, when someone can come target you, like they see you have slot 1 Black Rose Helena, the value of Cypress pile in that situation goes up a lot. It goes up significantly. Now, would I suggest that everyone go build 3 of them right now, or even 2 of them? No, I would not. If you want to build 1 for like the current state of Guild Wars, to use on Guild Wars defense, to have in case there's some PvE environments where you need to, you know, lower that magic resist or penetrate that magic resist, sure, that's fine. And again, in my video, the last one that started like this whole thing, I even suggested, hey, get those recipes and sit on them. But let me look, like, I farmed it today, just before this, and I used skip tickets to farm it, just to make what I needed to farm, like, really clear so I would know. It was 18 large energy pots worth of farming, however many skip tickets, event skip tickets that ended up being, which we might not always have a bunch of event skip tickets. Those things, like, we could burn through them. 18 large energy pots. If you're buying the $1 a day pack that gives you 3, well, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. That'd be $6 just in large energy pots to farm this thing. Now, if you buy the 30 large energy pot pack for $8, your math gets a little better there. It goes to like $4.60. God, if I just did that math right in my head, I should become a math teacher. But I don't know if that... It's $4 and something, I think, with my quick brain math. For my account, before I was making this video, that was not $6 that I wanted to spend. I wanted to save my large energy pots for like raiding, for building up, resonance on my units. I would rather have used my pots for that than farming this. But that's me, that's my account. And perhaps like one of the mistakes I made in my video was not making it very clear or not expressing the idea that if your account isn't like super well developed, where you have all these options, Cypress Pile is a very, very good option. And if it's all you can farm right now, go farm it. The drawback is you're using mithril ores, which are very, like, it's a rare drop. It's a very rare item, and it's using some other good items. And wind crisps, which actually wind crisps were the thing that, like, as I was spamming skip tickets on this, I ended up with way more recipes than I needed, and it was wind crisps that I was hurting for. So if that energy investment, if 18 large pots is worth throwing at this thing, go for it, right? Like, one of the most beautiful things about War of the Visions is you can play the game however you want and almost anything works. Like, I'm gonna try and make Macherie work. That's kind of the thing I like to do. That being said, do I agree with my first video? I think I agree with the title of my first video, maybe not the thumbnail. So the lesson I will take away from this, personally, as a content creator, is less clickbaity thumbnails, and maybe try to, I think that's my lesson here. I am very, very pleased, though, with the conversation that sprung from all of this. I have had a lot of fun following it. Like, I followed the Reddit thread. I watched Locke's video this morning. Really good stuff. I enjoyed doing this video, like doing a little more math, which was fun. And that's my thought. So I imagine this video is long. It's in a whole bunch of little pieces, so I'm going to wrap it up so I don't make a 30-minute video. But thank you to everyone in the community who like respectfully participated in this. That's what makes this game awesome. Okay, like the community makes this game great. I'm happy to be a part of it. And there you go. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.